Hey there, welcome to Becca and the Balance. I am Becca, and today we are making sun-dried tomatoes from scratch. I've been looking forward to these all year long, ever since we started growing tomatoes. But first, make sure you check me out over on my Instagram, Becca and the Balance. I'm also over on Pinterest and Facebook, and you can shop everything you see here with the link in my bio. So first off, you just need about 3 dozen tomatoes. I use some that were homegrown, that were heirloom, but for the most part, I'm using Roma tomatoes. They're a little bit thicker. Make sure that you give them all a really good wash, and then you can start slicing. This is really easy. You just slice them open the long way, and then you're just going to take a spoon and you're going to scoop all the guts and all the seeds out. Put those into this bowl here, and you're going to hold on to those for reserve because I don't waste anything. So that is what we're doing here today. We are literally just going to clean them out. We're going to take all the seeds out, and then when you're done, you will have this perfectly cleaned out tomato. There you go. And you want to have a piece of parchment paper ready to go on your pans. So as you're working on these, you have somewhere clean to set them. That way they can stay as dry as possible before we go ahead and put them in the oven. Okay, just like that. And then I try and keep these nice and small. You can leave them the shape that they're in, but it is going to take them a little bit longer to dry. So I take my tomato and I cut each half into 4. So from one tomato, you're going to have 8 little pieces. So as I said before, these are Roma tomatoes. They are considerably thicker skinned than the heirloom tomatoes that I did last year. So you're going to want to cook something like a Roma tomato at about 220 degrees for 6 hours. If you have something thinner, last year I used cherry tomatoes and heirlooms. They're much thinner, and I put those at about 170 degrees for 6 hours. So just take a look at your tomato. You'll be able to tell which is which, and then adjust your time appropriately. What you want when you're all said and done is a tomato that's harder than usual, but still pliable. You don't want it burnt and super dried out. So once you have those all finished, they're on your trays with just a little bit of space in between, about the same size each. You're going to sprinkle these with sea salt. So you don't want to add a ton of salt and go crazy here. This is just going to help them dry out a little bit more. It also adds that flavor to it. This is a really easy thing to do. You just need to have the time for these to cook on your hands. But other than that, I mean, you're cutting them, you're cleaning them, you're salting them, and in the oven they go. And then I go ahead and prep everything immediately after, so everything's just waiting for the tomatoes to get out. I added about 5 to 6 cloves of garlic here. And on the recipe that I have printed for you guys, I've listed all kinds of herbs and spices that you can add and what those herbs and spices smell like and what they do. So I just use thyme and basil for my herbs and garlic, and that's all I use. But you can always add oregano and all sorts of stuff to yours. So garlic and thyme and basil for mine. So I went ahead and show you 2 containers here. I really only ended up needing 1. I made these ones before, and I was not sure how much I would need. So total, what I put in one for these 3 dozen tomatoes, hi Penny, I put in 5 to 6 garlic cloves, 2 teaspoons of thyme, and 2 teaspoons of the basil. And then I just put enough oil over those just to cover it. And then I just put them on the lid and I set them aside until my tomatoes are all ready. It just kind of gives them a little chance to marinate even before the tomatoes are done. So there they are. It smells amazing. I mean, you can't go wrong with chopped garlic and some herbs in oil. Very delicious smelling. So after 3 hours, you're going to take these out, and I should have mentioned here, you're going to want to put them skin side down to start. And so that 3-hour mark, you're going to want to flip them over. And then if you have 3 racks in there, like you should, like I do, I rotate each rack and turn them around and move them shelf-wise. So the top one goes to the bottom one goes to the middle. So 6 hours later, this is what they look like. Not burnt, still pliable, but dried perfectly. There it is. I can't even tell you how excited I have been waiting all year growing tomatoes and mooching them off of anyone that I can, because we love sun-dried tomatoes in our house. I'm not a huge tomato fan, not even in the slightest, but sun-dried tomatoes are special and different. And once you have those in your container, then all you're going to do is fill it with enough oil to cover the tomatoes on top. Just like that. Just enough to cover them on top. And you can leave it just like this and then store it. Use it immediately or put it in your freezer. Or this is what I do, since we do not like big tomato chunks. I put mine in a blender cup and I pulse it till it's about a chopped consistency. I'll show it to you here in just a second. Just little pulses. I don't eat mine outright. We put ours in sauces. I put it into bread. I have a recipe for that I'm going to share with you really, really soon. So that's how I like mine. And I store mine in the freezer, and because it's being stored in oil, you can just scoop it right out. That way you don't have to worry about it going bad, because otherwise you have to check this if you leave it in your fridge for a really long time to make sure it hasn't gotten moldy or unhealthy in any way. So I either use mine immediately or it just goes right in my freezer. And then I go ahead and I mark this. There it is. It's so good, you guys. I marked the lid using a dry erase marker. I just put sun-dried tomatoes on there and I put the date just so I can kind of keep track of it. And that is literally it. It's very easy and the recipe is linked.